It was just another cozy morning at the neighborhood cafe, the clink of mugs, the soft murmur of small talk, and the rich scent of roasted coffee beans wafting through the air. But what no one knew was that beneath the steam and smiles, a killer was sitting quietly among them, watching, waiting, sipping their brew as if nothing had happened. The crime was brutal. The victim? A beloved local barista with no enemies, or so it seemed. But when the police began to untangle the threads behind the murder, what they found led them into a world of secrets steeped in betrayal, obsession, and dark rituals disguised as routine. This is the true story of a murder brewed in plain sight, where every latte masked a lie and every smile hid a secret. Welcome to the Coffee and Crime Time. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to an unbelievable true story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. It was 6:45 a.m. on a brisk October morning in Portland, Oregon. The trees lining the cobblestone streets of Hawthorne Boulevard glowed amber and crimson under the sleepy haze of dawn. Commuters bustled in scarves and boots, clutching their phones, checking their watches. But for the regulars of the Drip Room Café, the day began the way it always did, with a hot cup of something strong and familiar. The Drip Room wasn't just a coffee shop. It was a second home for many. Artists, college students, tech workers, and tired parents all flocked there for their morning fix. But what made the place magnetic wasn't the beans, it was Marina Ellis. Marina was 29, with curly chestnut hair, a gap-toothed grin, and a memory like a steel trap. She remembered everyone's name, drink order, and life story, from the guy who always ordered double espresso to the woman who asked for 2 pumps of lavender and 3 ice cubes, no more, no less. She'd worked there for almost 6 years. Everyone knew her, and everyone loved her. Which made what happened on the morning of October 19th even more horrifying. That morning, Marina showed up for the opening shift as usual. Surveillance footage from the cafe's back entrance shows her unlocking the door at 5:31 a.m. She's wearing a denim jacket and headphones, bobbing her head slightly to whatever she was listening to. She punches in, turns on the lights, and begins her routine, prepping syrups, pulling shots, and baking the cafe's famous cranberry scones. By 6:15 a.m., she's setting up the register and singing under her breath. Everything seems normal, warm, even. But then, at 6:38 a.m., something strange happens. The camera feed abruptly cuts to black. When the next employee, Julian Reyes, arrives at 7:05 a.m., he finds the front door locked, which was unusual. Marina always had it open by then. Thinking maybe she was in the restroom or had stepped out, Julian uses his key and walks in. The cafe is silent. There's coffee brewing, scones in the display case, and a bar stool tipped over near the back. He calls out to her. No answer. He moves toward the counter, still calling her name. Then, in the dim light of the kitchen, he sees it. Marina's body. She's crumpled near the industrial fridge, face down in a pool of dark red. Her apron is soaked. One hand is clutching her phone. The other is stretched toward the hallway, as if she was crawling. There's shattered ceramic around her, the remnants of a mug. Julian screams. The 911 call was made at 7:07 a.m. Paramedics arrived within 8 minutes. But it was too late. Marina had been murdered. At first glance, the scene didn't make sense. The cafe showed no signs of forced entry. The cash register hadn't been touched. Nothing had been stolen. The Portland Police Homicide Unit, led by Detective Real Larkin, took the case. Larkin was known for her no-nonsense approach, a veteran with a sharp instinct for details most people overlooked. She arrived on scene just after 8 a.m. and began examining the area meticulously. Forensics confirmed that Marina had sustained blunt force trauma to the head, the likely murder weapon being the mug found in pieces next to her. No defensive wounds. No signs of a struggle. It was as if someone walked right up to her and struck. The CCTV footage was the first clue. Reviewing the security logs, tech specialists found that the cafe's cameras had been remotely disabled at exactly 6:38 and 17 seconds a.m. It wasn't a power failure, it was an intentional command sent from within the system. Someone knew the system, knew how to disable it, and knew when to strike. When detectives checked the door logs, the evidence deepened. Only 2 people had accessed the cafe between 5:30 and 7 a.m., Marina and Julian. Marina with her unique staff keycard, and Julian's use at 7:05. There were no signs of forced entry, no smashed windows, no tampering. Whoever killed Marina had either 1. Been let in, 2. Already been inside, 3. Had a key. News of Marina's death swept through the community like wildfire. By noon, a memorial of flowers, candles, and handwritten notes filled the sidewalk outside the drip room. People wept openly. Customers gave tearful interviews on local news stations. "She remembered my kid's birthday," one woman sobbed. "She gave me free coffee when I was laid off," said another. To them, this wasn't just a barista. This was family. That afternoon, Marina's roommate, Sophie Talbot, was questioned. She was visibly shaken, barely able to speak. But what she said caught Detective Larkin's attention. "Marina was scared," Sophie said. "For the past couple of weeks, she kept saying someone was watching her. That someone had been messing with her stuff at the cafe, moving things. She thought she was being paranoid, but she told me if anything ever happened to her, to check her notes app." That same day, detectives secured Marina's phone from the crime scene. The screen was cracked, but still functional. When they opened her notes app, they found something chilling. Note dated October 17, 10:43 p.m. "If something happens to me, it's someone from the cafe. Someone who knew how to get in. I've seen the cameras flicker. I think they're being messed with. I don't know who to trust anymore." Detective Larkin's team now had their theory. Marina's killer knew her. Maybe even worked with her. The suspect pool shrank drastically. There were 5 other employees who worked with Marina regularly. Each was brought in for questioning. 1. Julian Reyes, 25, co-worker who found the body. Nervous but cooperative. 2. Devin Markle, 34, cafe manager. Calm, composed, claimed no conflicts. 3. Kira Bloom, 22, part-time barista. Claimed she and Marina were close friends. 4. Oscar Lynn, 29, baker. Kept mostly to himself, described as odd but harmless. 5. Ivy Monroe, 30, former employee who quit 3 weeks prior under mysterious circumstances. Detectives zeroed in on Ivy Monroe. According to Marina's notes app, the two had a falling out over an incident involving stolen inventory and missing register cash. Ivy had denied any wrongdoing, but she quit suddenly and blocked Marina on all platforms shortly after. When officers showed up at Ivy's apartment, she wasn't there. She hadn't been to her new job in days. Her landlord said she was behind on rent and hadn't been seen since the day of Marina's murder. Now, Ivy was a person of interest. But things weren't that simple. Back at the station, Detective Larkin received the first forensic report from Marina's autopsy, time of death estimated between 6:39 and 6:43 a.m. Just minutes after the camera feed was cut. Whoever killed Marina knew exactly when she was alone. And that kind of knowledge wasn't random. Then came the kicker, a partial fingerprint on one of the mug shards. It wasn't Marina's. And it wasn't Ivy's. It belonged to someone still working at the cafe, someone who had already been questioned. Oscar Lynn. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to an unbelievable true story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. Oscar Lynn was never the center of attention at the drip room. Quiet, punctual, and deeply introverted, He was known for arriving early, keeping to himself in the kitchen, and leaving without much small talk. He had been baking for the cafe for nearly 3 years and rarely had conflicts, or so it seemed. But the fingerprint changed everything. When detectives brought Oscar back in for further questioning, he appeared visibly unsettled. His hands trembled slightly, and his voice dropped almost to a whisper. Detective Larkin laid the evidence out plainly. "We found your fingerprint on the mug fragment used in the assault. Can you explain that?" Oscar blinked, his eyes darting around the room. I wash all the mugs. Every shift. It could have come from that. Except this one was freshly placed on the counter the morning Marina died. She had just poured a latte into it. You weren't on shift yet." Silence. Then Oscar spoke. Slowly. I was there. Earlier than scheduled. I didn't tell you before because I didn't want to get involved." "Involved in what?" Oscar leaned back. His jaw tightened. Ivy was there too. According to Oscar, Ivy Monroe had contacted him 2 days before Marina's death. She asked to meet at the cafe early in the morning on the 19th, before anyone else arrived. She said it was about unfinished business. Oscar claimed he didn't want to go, but curiosity got the better of him. He arrived at 6:15 a.m. using his old keycard, one that hadn't yet been deactivated in the system, and oversight by management. He said Ivy was already inside, talking to Marina. They were arguing, Oscar recalled. It got loud. Ivy was saying something about Marina ruining her life. Marina told her to leave or she'd call the cops. I didn't know what to do. So I went to the kitchen and waited for it to be over. What happened next? Detective Larkin pressed. I heard a crash. Then silence. When I went back out, Ivy was gone. Marina was lying on the ground. Why didn't you call for help? Oscar shook his head. I panicked. I left. I know it was wrong. But I didn't kill her. I swear. His story matched the forensic timeline almost perfectly. The keycard logs showed Oscar entered the building at 6:14 a.m. and left again at 6:45. He had never punched in, which explained why he wasn't originally listed among the early arrivals. Ivy's presence, however, was still unconfirmed. There was just one problem: no one could find Ivy Monroe. Police issued a statewide bulletin for Ivy. Her phone had been turned off since the morning of the murder. Her car, a silver Honda Civic, was also missing. But on the morning of October 22nd, 3 days after Marina's death, something unexpected happened. A woman walked into the Oregon City Police Department, about 15 miles south of Portland. She was pale, disheveled, and visibly distressed. Her name? Ivy Monroe. I didn't kill her, she said immediately. But I know how it looks. She sat down with detectives and told her side of the story, one that turned everything upside down. According to Ivy, she had been spiraling for weeks before the murder. After being accused of stealing from the drip room and leaving her job, she said her life fell apart. She lost her apartment, moved in with a friend, and struggled to find steady work. But she insisted she wasn't angry with Marina, not anymore. We were friends, Ivy said. But when things got bad, she blamed me to save herself. I was furious. But I wasn't going to hurt her. I just wanted to talk. Ivy admitted she used Oscar's old keycard, which she had taken from his locker weeks before she left, to get into the cafe that morning. She said she met with Marina at 6:20 a.m. She told me to get out, Ivy recalled. We argued, but it didn't get physical. Then Oscar came in. She looked scared when she saw him. Said something like, "You again?" I left. I didn't want to be there anymore. Detective Larkin's eyes narrowed. You're saying Marina was afraid of Oscar? Ivy nodded. She never told me why. But she said he creeped her out. Like, really creeped her out. That night, police obtained a warrant for Oscar Lynn's home and storage locker. What they found there shattered everything. Inside Oscar's storage unit were several items. A photo collage of Marina, taken over the span of months, some candid, some clearly taken without her knowing. A stained apron, not his, but Marina's. Several printed messages, angry, obsessive, unhinged, including one that read, "She ruined everything. She turned everyone against me." But the most chilling discovery was a notebook. In it, Oscar had written Marina's name over 100 times. Some pages were scratched out violently. Others included disturbing poems about betrayal, rejection, and revenge. Despite Ivy's earlier testimony, it was now clear, Oscar had an obsession. A twisted fixation. And possibly, a motive. Detective Larkin confronted Oscar with the evidence the next morning. At first, he denied everything. But as the photographs from the storage unit were laid out in front of him, his demeanor cracked. "She was supposed to care," he muttered. "After everything I did for her." "What did you do, Oscar?" "She knew I liked her. I wrote her poems. Gave her things. She laughed. Told people I was weird." His voice darkened. "She humiliated me." Larkin leaned in. "Did you kill her?" Oscar's jaw clenched. He didn't answer. But then his eyes welled up. And in a whisper, he said, "She made me feel invisible." That was all. It wasn't a confession. But it was close. Enough for a warrant. The fingerprint. The motive. The disturbing shrine. The access. The opportunity. It all pointed to Oscar Lynn. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to an unbelievable true story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. On the morning of October 24th, Portland police arrested Oscar Lynn at his apartment without incident. The moment was surreal, a quiet man, known for his sourdough and blueberry muffins, being walked out in cuffs under the flashing lights of the local press. He was charged with second-degree murder and criminal trespass, though the prosecution hinted at the possibility of increasing charges pending further investigation. Oscar remained silent during the booking process. No statement. No denial. Just silence. Inside the station, Detective Larkin watched the footage again, the last frames of Marina alive, singing to herself, unaware that the man who'd been watching her for months was hiding just feet away. But something still felt off. The forensic team made a chilling discovery when reviewing the internal CCTV system's metadata, not just the footage itself, but the logs of user access. Someone had not only disabled the cameras remotely, they had also downloaded several video clips from the week leading up to the murder. That user ID? It didn't match Oscar's system credentials. In fact, it was a deleted user account, one that had been scrubbed, but partially recovered through back-end logs. That account belonged to Devin Markle, the cafe's manager. Devin was charismatic, well-dressed, and always in control. His employees described him as cool under pressure, and good with people. But Detective Larkin now saw something different, a man who had something to hide. When questioned about the deleted account and camera access, Devin stammered, "I don't know anything about that. The system was buggy. We had issues." "But you never reported them," Larkin pointed out. Devin sighed. "Honestly, I wasn't going to throw Oscar under the bus. He's had problems." Larkin's eyes narrowed. "What kind of problems?" "Obsessive tendencies. He had a crush on Marina. Everyone knew it." Larkin nodded slowly. "So why didn't you step in?" Devin folded his arms. "Because it wasn't my business." But it had been his business, literally. He was responsible for employee safety. And now, his deleted login was tied to the tampered footage. If Oscar wasn't the only one with access, who really killed Marina? And then it clicked. Detective Larkin returned to the timestamped logs. If Oscar entered at 6:14 a.m. and left at 6:45, that fit the original theory. but Marina's time of death was between 6:39 and 6:43. Yet, something didn't match Devon's alibi. He had claimed he was home, getting ready for work, and didn't arrive until 9 a.m. But traffic camera footage from a block away showed his car parked near the cafe at 6:35 a.m. Even worse, his phone pinged off the cafe's private Wi-Fi briefly at 6:37. That was before the cameras went dark. Suddenly, Oscar wasn't looking like the killer. He may have been obsessed. He may have trespassed. But he didn't have the tech skills or the motive to cover it all up. Devon, on the other hand, did. 2 days later, police executed a search warrant on Devon's apartment and work laptop. There, buried in his email archive, was an encrypted folder titled Backup/Staff Ops. Inside were dozens of video clips from the Drip Room security feed, including unedited footage from October 19th. The real timeline emerged. At 6:36 a.m., Marina is wiping the counter. At 6:37, the door to the employee hallway creaks open. At 6:38, Devon walks in. The footage freezes. Then, at 6:44, he walks out again, alone. The murder happened after Oscar left the main floor but before Devon exited. There was no longer any doubt. Devon Markle was arrested the following morning and charged with first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and obstruction of justice. At trial, the motive finally surfaced. Marina had recently discovered that Devon had been embezzling funds from the cafe. Over $12,000 had been rerouted into a private account. She had confronted him and threatened to report it to the owner. There was also a deeper layer. Marina and Devon had a brief romantic relationship, which she ended 6 months earlier. Marina had moved on. Devon hadn't. When she threatened to expose his financial crimes, he panicked. The obsession, the betrayal, the fear of losing everything, it all boiled over that morning. And he silenced her. Permanently. Oscar Lynn was cleared of murder charges. Though he was still convicted of obstruction for hiding the scene and failing to call police, he received a reduced sentence and mandatory psychiatric evaluation. Ivy Monroe was exonerated. And Marina? Her parents set up a foundation in her name, the Ellis Initiative, dedicated to providing mental health resources for food service workers across the country. The Drip Room was shut down. A mural now stands where the door once was, a painted portrait of Marina pouring a cup of coffee, her signature smile frozen in time. Greater than in a world where trust is poured one cup at a time, Marina believed in the good in people, even when they gave her reason not to. But it was that belief, that unwavering kindness, that made her unforgettable. Her story ended in silence. But her legacy speaks louder than ever. In the spring of 2024, the trial of Devon Markle began. The courtroom was packed every day, Marina Ellis's family in the front row, silent but determined. Reporters dubbed it the Café killing case. The prosecution laid out the case with chilling precision. Devon's embezzlement. His deleted surveillance access. The recovered footage. And the motive, personal and financial ruin. Oscar Lynn testified. His voice shook, but he spoke clearly about what he saw that morning and his own shame for not coming forward sooner. Ivy Monroe also took the stand, clarifying her presence and what Marina had confided about feeling unsafe around Devon in the weeks leading up to the attack. But the most emotional moment came when Marina's younger sister, Lana Ellis, addressed the court. She wasn't just my sister. She was my safe place. Devon didn't just kill her, he stole our family's peace. And we will never brew a cup of coffee without tasting the bitterness of that day. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Verdict, guilty on all counts. Sentence, life in prison without parole. Justice had finally been served. After the trial, Portland's coffee community came together in a way no one expected. Baristas, cafe owners, and regular customers across the city held a pour for Marina Day, donating 100% of their profits to mental health initiatives and the Ellis Initiative. The mural outside the former drip room became a local landmark, a place where people left flowers, coffee sleeves with handwritten notes, and even handmade ceramic mugs. Marina's story wasn't forgotten. It became a rallying cry for safer work environments and the unseen struggles of service industry workers. Her name now appears on an annual scholarship for young women pursuing culinary and hospitality careers. Detective Larkin was asked once what case stayed with him most. "It's the quiet ones," he said. "The ones where no one saw it coming. Where a smile masked fear. Where a routine morning brewed into a nightmare." Marina's story reminds us, evil doesn't always scream. Sometimes, it whispers behind an espresso machine. Oscar Lynn, released after serving his brief sentence, now lives in a quiet part of Washington. He doesn't speak to media. But in a rare email to Lana Ellis, he wrote, "I wish I had done something. I wish I could go back. I see her face in every cup of tea I brew." And Ivy Monroe? She now advocates for workplace protection laws, using her own name and story to push legislation across Oregon. Marina Ellis was more than a victim, she was a force of light in a dark moment. If her story moved you, help us keep her voice alive. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs to hear the truth. Because sometimes, justice needs a witness, and that witness is you. Have you heard this story before? What do you think truly happened in that cafe the morning Marina died? Could anyone have stopped it? Or did evil brew quietly for years? If you're drawn to real stories that stay with you, subscribe now to An Unbelievable True Story. Because every week, we reveal the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Watch the next video on your screen, or dive into our full playlist of true crime mysteries. The next story might be even more shocking.